Good morning, everybody. It's 9:30 and I got a late start out here. I was doing a bunch of stuff in the garden over the weekend and I blew my back out. And man, when you have lower back pain, it's just, yeah, it's not good. So Sunday it was pretty much keep my feet up and hot pad and ice and hot pad and ice until I could walk around. And then I finally slept. It probably all the Advil. So anyway, I need to come out here and check my reservoirs. I know Saturday they were getting low, and I'm hoping that they didn't dry everything out. So let's take a look at the reservoirs, and then I'll show you how I fill them. So these are my two hydroponic reservoirs. They're both 55 gallons. That one, I believe had, what did it have in it? I think that one was the one that had the caramel color, food caramel color. That one had soy sauce in it, and I've had that for a few years now, and it still occasionally will smell like soy sauce when I open it up. So it's kind of funny, but they're all they get scrubbed every year with 10% bleach and stuff like that. So let's look inside and see how low I am. Now I know Saturday I was pretty low. Oh, yep. There we go. So I did it just in enough time. So what I have to do, I have a little water meter that you screw on. Here it is. Hey, I found it. Okay, that you screw onto the hose. This is really accurate. I measured 4 5-gallon buckets, and it filled them right up to the brim. So this is really accurate. This really helps a lot. So what I do is I hook this onto the hose, and then I run it over to my barrels so I know how much water I put in. Then I can mix my formula accordingly. Okay. So I got the hose, I got the gallon counter, and it actually does liters too if you push the button. And then I got my automatic shut off. Usually I have my faucet or my hose end on the end of this. I have a really nice little sprayer, but my sprayer is broken, so I need to take that apart and see if I can fix it. So I just have an on and off on this. So I just have to reset it to 0 gallons because we're in the US and I use gallons. And I'm just going to turn it on and let it fill. I learned from MHP Gardner. I watched his videos years and years ago when I was sick. I had the flu or something, and I was out for probably about 6 months, and don't know what it was, but it took me forever to get better. And that was when I made the management decision that that's enough. I'm done with not processing my own foods and stuff like that. So I try to process as much as I can and not have all the salts in the stuff in here. And so I don't use I don't grow all my own food hydroponically. I grow my tomatoes and my peppers, some of them hydroponically, because that way I get a good crop. Usually I get a good crop. Peppers are horrible this year for me. And if the weather poops out on us and just does really horrible rain and everything, and my tomatoes, I lose my tomatoes, I don't have any tomato soup. And that's one of the things that I really make with my tomatoes. I make tomato soup because you can't find a good tomato soup that has no gluten in it, because they use flour to thicken everything. And I have an intolerance to gluten. So I had to figure out how to cook for myself, and that's what I've been doing. So my yard has been getting larger and larger, and mostly during the summer months, when the lettuces and stuff start coming in, we don't hardly go to the grocery store. We eat out of our garden, and so it really does save a lot, because you can get a whole packet of seeds for under $2, and that gives you lettuce for the whole summer. So anyway. So you can use any hydroponic fertilizer. I use this. It's easy. A lot of places out of the United States can't get it. I don't know if it's equivalent to another fertilizer that you can get, but there's so many different hydroponic fertilizers. You just have to do a little research. So, but this is what I do. This isn't really a fertilizer mixing. I just showing you what I mix up. So the hydroponic fertilizer, the Masterblend, it is your magnesium and potash and phosphoric acid and nitrogen, boron, copper, iron, manganese, molybdenum, and zinc. And that's what's in this one. And so, okay, in order, the Masterblend gets mixed until dissolved. Then your calcium nitrate gets mixed until dissolved. Then your magnesium sulfate, which is your Epsom salt, gets mixed until dissolved. $80 gallons total between both buckets. This one is right up. You can see it right up. This one has probably another 2.5 gallons. So this one's a little bit taller. Now, how these work is I have the two barrels. We have a 1/4 inch tubing that is drilled in from here into here, and it coils around the bottom of the containers. So what that does is that keeps these containers at the same level at all times. Get that back on there. Okay, and then, so these are keeping both these containers the same level at all times. This white 1/4 inch, that one comes out and goes down into my flow system. I'll take you in here, because I really never explained this, but it's on the internet. But it works out really well. Goes down into my flow system, which is, it holds about, peek in there, about 20 gallons, 25 gallons. Now that is hooked up to, let me move this stuff out of the way here. And I can show you my benches. Can't garden without my benches. Okay, so, and this is sunk in here to keep it cool, to a float. So my tube is coming in through the greenhouse there into a float. So what happens is when my tomatoes and my peppers drink, the float goes down. It's like the toilet, and then it'll start dribbling. So this stays full all the time and covered. So I have two pumps. One pump runs to the back of the greenhouse. The second pump runs to the first three in the greenhouse. I'll put this stuff back or I will trip over it next time. There we go. Gotta wash a bunch of trays. So then what happens is one pump goes out and there's two lines. They feed the formula into the perlite, into the perlite buckets, the Dutch buckets, that's what I'm trying to say. They feed the line into the Dutch buckets, then they come back out, and then they go back in. And that is how I run my hydroponics. These are my timers, and I just got to thinking of something. I have not checked my tomatoes for a while on seeing to make sure the tubes are not clogged. That's one thing that once these tomatoes get this big, the vines or the roots will find any sorts of water, and they will find the least resistance, and they will clog everything. So what I need to do real quick is I'm going to turn my pumps on one at a time, let them get started, and then I'm going to watch real quick on each tomato plant to make sure that they're not clogged. So it takes a few minutes. Oh, here we go. So this one's good, and I can see the water leaving down here. Now this one, I'm going to lift. Get out of here. And the water's coming out just fine. And it's not leaking. Now this one, see what's happened? The tube, you can see the water's coming out. So I know there's water getting in here. So I just want to lift that up just enough, and it should have dislodged the plug. And I know it's not going to be very deep yet. So, I mean, I can even lift all that up, but I can feel now. So I'm going to let this one sit. The best way to put these filler tubes in is make sure they're in the middle of your bucket. If they're not and they're hanging too far over, if this plugs and you're not in the greenhouse, it will deplete your resources so fast, and it can kill your pumps. That happened to me about 3 years ago. I was not ready for it. I also use these clips that you get during Christmas time for your lights that go on the side of your house. They work great to hold these 1/4 inch tubes with a clothespin right on the side of the bucket. So I just use a clothespin, clip it on the side of the bucket, and it will keep your tube from slipping when the pumps turn on and off. Alrighty, so that was a quickie update, and just for everybody that is trying hydroponics, it is easy, but there are things that you really have to think ahead. Of course, when your tomatoes are this big, you can't get away with a 20-gallon reservoir. You'd be filling it twice a day in the heat. So if you're just doing a small greenhouse, 20 gallons if you're going to be out there all the time. But I have between my 20-gallon reservoir and 110 gallons out on the outside. But if you have one leak, that one little dribble of the return line, or one of your lines dripping over the side, or even your gasket leaking, which I got to do a video on. These gaskets are brilliant. The ones that I used to use always leak. These, there has been no leak. I used to fill my reservoirs up at least twice a week because I could never get the leaking to stop. Not a problem. I'm going a long time without filling the reservoirs up compared to what I used to. So you just have to think ahead of the game, and there is a learning curve. It's not something that I watched videos on hydroponics, especially MHP Gardner. I watched every one of his videos from the very beginning, that summer or that winter that I was sick. Started at the very beginning, went all the way through. If he made a mistake, I jotted that down, and I knew not to do that. So you find somebody good on YouTube and you learn, and you don't tweak. Don't say, well, maybe if I put more chemicals in, or maybe if I put more of this in, you're not going to get the results. Look at somebody's results. Look at what they're doing. It's okay to copy because they've already made the mistakes. And that's something that if you want to succeed, you watch and you research and you look. Now if you go on, to say you're just starting, you go on and you see my channel, for instance, and you see what I'm doing. Okay, that's cool. Is it real? Who knows? Then you go back and you find other people that are doing the same thing, see how they're doing, and you put it on a scale. If there's a bunch of people doing the same thing and they're getting the same result, then that's good. If there's people that are getting bad results and there's more bad results, really look and research. Knowledge is power, and the more you learn, the better you grow. Oh, there's a catchphrase for me. So anyhow, there's a lot of good people on YouTube. There's a lot of a good community for gardening. And have a great day, and I'm going to go back in, take care of my appointments, and then get back out in the garden. Have a nice day. Thank you for watching.